Hello and welcome back to our Lord of the Rings LCG solo progression series. And today's quest is Flight to the Ford, which is the third and final scenario in the Black Riders Deluxe expansion, and it is the third out of 18 total scenarios in the Lord of the Rings saga. A quick reminder, in this series we're playing through each quest in chronological order of the game's initial release, and we'll only be using player cards that were available at the time of this quest release. I'm calling this deck Fatty's Flight, I guess because I have the sense of humor of a middle school boy. So I had the deck name really that sort of popped in my head first. I just was lamenting the fact that Fatty is such a terrible hero in this game. They kind of did him dirty. And so I was just thinking it'd be fun to use Fatty, and I liked the deck name. So I thought, well, let's try it. And as I built it, I actually found that it's a good deck, ultimately. Now, surprisingly, the deck is actually better with Spirit Pippin. That is not a sentence you're going to hear uttered very often. Spirit Pippin is also an awful hero, but he's just a little bit better than Fatty in that his threat is one less and his willpower is one higher. But, you know, we just want to keep that deck name. So let's look at Fatty Bulger. And his threat and all that kind of stuff is not so bad. It's just his action that's really, really terrible. But he's a spirit hobbit hero with 7 threat. He came out in the Black Riders Deluxe expansion. 1 willpower, 1 attack, 2 defense, and 3 health. But his action is just inconceivably bad. Action: exhaust Fatty Bulger to choose an enemy in the staging area and raise your threat by that enemy's threat. Okay, so if there's an enemy that has 6 threat in staging and somehow it's not immune to player card effects, you could exhaust Fatty, and that's pretty good. Yeah, well, that's not good. You raise your threat by 6. That's not good, because then you're going to engage that enemy. So what's the payoff? Until the end of the phase, that enemy does not contribute its threat. What? So the only time maybe that's good is the very end of the game, if you're like desperate to get past the finish line, and maybe there's an enemy with a high threat in staging, and you don't care about raising your threat, you can use that. And in essence, Fatty is kind of questing for more. I don't know. It's not so good. But again, just his general stats and his spirit access and all that is not really bad. So we will use Fatty, probably the only time in the channel. We are using Glorfindel, which we're used to seeing him in play a lot. This time it's thematically sensible, because Glorfindel, this is his big moment in the books, as well as Asphaloth. However, Beravor just keeps popping up everywhere all over Middle-earth, because she just works. So Flight to the Ford, appropriately, is a race to the finish. We're trying to save Frodo before he succumbs to his wound from the Morgul blade. Let's get to the quest and see how we do. I like it because I have Test of Light of Valinor and I have Peace and Thoughts, so I'll just keep this one. Seems like a good opening hand. I wish I had Test of Will, but maybe we'll draw into one. Okay, so here is the Fellowship Frodo. He has his response, which we might actually use in this quest. Let's attach the 1 ring to Frodo. It says set up. The first player claims the 1 ring and attaches it to the ring bearer. Attached hero does not count against the hero limit, so we can have 4 heroes. First player gains control of attached hero. Remember, Frodo can only spend his resources for neutral cards and also for Fellowship sphered cards. All right, here is pursued by the enemy. Frodo has been gravely injured in the attack at Weathertop and will perish if his companions can't bring him to Rivendell in time. A Strider leads the hobbits towards the Hidden Valley, anxiously listening for the sound of Black Riders. For setup, we shuffle each burden card from the Flight to the Ford burden set into a burden deck. So here are those cards. There's 5 of them. They're all treacheries that surge, and some of them are worse than others. Let's just turn these back over and shuffle that deck. And here is, we'll continue it on. Attach an evil wound to the ring bearer. Here's an evil wound. It's an objective. It attaches to Frodo. Attached to the ring bearer, attached hero cannot be healed. And when attached hero would take any amount of damage, reduce the ring bearer's life by an equal amount instead. If the ring bearer's life reaches 0, the players lose the game. So there are effects that are going to cause Frodo's life to go down, and his life is not actually 2. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead and show you right there at the bottom. It says set the ring bearer's life to 15. So Frodo's life is 15. And so I thought I'd go ahead and just do that. We'll put 15 points on him of hit points, and there is no way to heal him, but there will be effects that cause his life to drain away until eventually, if he gets to 0, we lose the game. Okay, so set Ford of Bruinen and the Witch King aside out of play. Here is the Ford of Bruinen and the Witch King. Same Witch King as we saw in Knife in the Dark. Then we add the last bridge and 1 Fell Rider per player to the staging area. Here is the last bridge, and here are the 4 copies of Fell Rider. We put 1 per player into the staging area. The other 3 will be shuffled back into the encounter deck. Let's look at these 2 cards. Last bridge has a threat of X. X is the number of players in the game. So 1 threat, immune to player card effects, so Asfaloth can't deal with this from, while it's in the staging area. The travel effect's not so good. The first player must reveal the top card of the burden deck and resolve that card as if it were just revealed from the encounter deck. We'll see how that works in a minute. Here's Fell Rider, and this is the most difficult card, and you really want to keep from having a second or even a third, God forbid, Fell Rider enter the staging area because of this forced effect. While Fell Rider is in the staging area, it gains forced. At the beginning of the encounter phase, the first player must either reduce the ring bearer's life by 1 or engage Fell Rider. We don't want to engage him, so each round, Frodo will lose a point of life while this Fell Rider is in the staging. So if you added the second, now he's losing 2 points of life at the beginning of that encounter step. And so it just makes the urgency that much worse. All right, then we set our ring bearer's life to 15, so we're done with 1A. 15 progress needed to advance. The players cannot advance, though, until the last bridge is in the victory display. And since this is immune to player card effects, we will have to travel here. We will have to clear it and make 15 progress. There's a force effect that at the end of the round reduce the ring bearer's life by 1. So between pursued by the enemy and Fell Rider, Frodo is going to lose 2 life points in the first round alone. The road runs along the edge of the hills for many miles from the bridge to the Ford of Bruinen, but I have not yet thought how we shall cross that water, 1 river at a time. We shall be fortunate indeed if we do not find the last bridge held against us. All right, so resource phase. And we'll use Bearbor's action during planning here. Action exhaust Bearbor to choose a player. That player draws 2 cards. And we'll attach Light of Valinor to Glorfindel. And we don't have anything else to do. We're going to quest with Frodo, with Fatty, and with Glorfindel. And we don't have a test of will. Even if we had a test of will, that's not going to help us with Fell Rider. I wish that I had Elrond's Counsel, because if I did, I could play with some light and make sure a Fell Rider doesn't interplay. So we have a little bit of a weak kind of point here in the game. So we'll reveal it's the Old Road. If it had been Fell Rider, then I would use Frodo's response to shuffle it back into the encounter deck and then do a mulligan and try to just hope it's not Fell Rider. It's very, very unlikely it's going to be Fell Rider, but it can happen. I'm talking about on the second reveal. All right, so the Old Road. So no big deal. Our threat did not go up. We had enough willpower versus threat. During the travel phase, we will not travel to the last bridge. We're not ready to. We can travel to the Old Road. And there is an action, but that's only, it says use this action only if you are playing campaign mode, which we are not. All right, at the beginning of the encounter phase, we have this forced effect on Fell Rider. While Fell Rider is in the staging area, it gains a forced effect. At the beginning of the encounter phase, the first player must either reduce the ring bearer's life by 1 or engage Fell Rider. So let's just reduce Frodo's life by 1. It's worth mentioning, I haven't done anything yet. I haven't moved anything to the bottom of the deck, so I can just show you. During round 1, you don't want to see a Fell Rider. You also don't want to see, where is it at? Why can't I find it? This one, Black Steed, which would reduce the engagement cost of Fell Rider by 10. So those are kind of the 2 cards you would potentially use Frodo's response for during round 1. Okay, so Frodo lost a life point at the beginning of the encounter phase, and we'll refresh. And during the refresh action window, we're going to play Peace and Thought. Before I do, I want to mention that I have made a rules mistake in a previous video. A subscriber or just somebody that watched my video, when they watched me do the really long playthrough where we quested for 1500 on We Must Await Our Break of Day, what I did was Bearvor ready during round 1, and then I used her action to draw 2 cards, hoping that I drew a Peace and Thought. And I've done this. There's been a few decks where I use Bearvor and Peace and Thought. That's the only one in the video series so far where I've made this mistake, but just somehow my brain turned off. I don't understand how, but Bearvor's action is a limit once per round. We've used her action during the planning phase, so I can't use it again during the refresh phase. I think just the fact that I was refreshing just made me feel like, oh, second round is on us. But it would just result in 1 extra action each game, where she would get 2 actions during the first round. I would use her to try to draw Peace and Thought and then play it. But then from then on, she'd be exhausted during the entirety of the round until the refresh phase. So just 1 extra action. It did not invalidate We Must Await Our Break of Day at all. But I just wanted to mention that. And just be really careful when you're playing the game, because sometimes you think I'm playing everything right, but something like that can sort of slip through unnoticed. So thank you to that watcher for noticing for me. Let's play Peace and Thought during the refresh action window. Exhaust 2 heroes to draw 5 cards. So we'll exhaust Frodo and Fatty Bulger, and we'll draw 5 cards. Great card. And we got a Steward of Gondor, which we needed. Okay, at the end of the round, because of pursued by the enemy, at the end of the round, reduce the Ring Bearer's life by 1. So we're down to 13. Next round. Let's play a Good Harvest and name Leadership. And what we're going to do is go ahead. Actually, before, we need to do that. So we're going to name Leadership, and we're going to spend Frodo's resources to pay for Steward of Gondor. And we'll put that on Fatty, and then we will exhaust Steward of Gondor. And now I need to lower my threats to get into secrecy. So let's go ahead and spend 1, 2, 3 resources to pay for Galadrim's Greeting, lowering my threat by 6. In response, I don't have a Hobbit Pipe. That's okay. All right, so we are in secrecy, which means I can now play Rissom Light. We're in planning here. Rissom Light is normally 3 cost, but in secrecy, which means a threat of 20 or under, it reduces the cost by 3. So this could cost me nothing. Action, look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. You may select 1 card and move it to the bottom of the encounter deck. Return any unselected cards to the top of the encounter deck in any order. So let's look at the top 3. And see, Fell Rider was coming out next. Let's move him to the bottom of the encounter deck. And I'll let this come out. I'm not worried about my allies. Then Edmore's is not so bad, so we'll let that come out next round. So you can see how great Rissom Light is in this quest for keeping Fell Rider from entering play. All right, we want to make a little bit more willpower here. Put out some more willpower here as Ithir Swordsman. Each Outlands character you control gets +1 willpower. Let's draw 2 cards with Bearvor. Forgot to do that. All right, we'll quest with Glorfindel and with Ithir Swordsman. And we'll reveal Power in their Terror. When revealed, each ally gets -1 willpower until the end of the round. Deal 2 damage to each ally with 0 willpower. We have 1 ally. When we lower Ithir Swordsman by 1 willpower, he will still have a willpower, so he won't be at 0. And so we did make a single point of progress. And during the travel phase, we won't go anywhere. At the beginning of the encounter phase, Fell Rider will force us to either engage him or reduce Frodo's life. Let's do that. We'll reduce Frodo's life. Refresh. And I can't use Bearvor's action during the refresh action window. Okay, at the end of the round, we reduce Frodo's life again because of pursued by the enemy. Next round. All right, here's Steward of Gondor. Bearvor draws 2 cards. really wish that I had Test of Will, but I know what's coming out next. It's Ed Moore's, so I'm not worried about threat at this point or anything coming out where we need Test of Will. Let's go ahead. 1, 2. Let's put out Aether Swordsman. And another Aether Swordsman. So we have lots of willpower now. And we'll put out Asphaloth. That's thematic. Oh, we don't put it on Paravor. Let's put it on Glorfindel. We're going to exhaust Asphaloth to put 2 progress on Old Road. And we're going to quest. And reveal Etmore's. When Etmore's is the active location, do not deal Nazgul enemies a shadow card during the combat phase. It will never be the active location because I don't want to deal with this forced effect. After any amount of progress is placed on Etmore's, reduce the ring bearer's life by 1. Okay, we made 13 progress, so 1 and 12. So we're almost completed pursued by the enemy there. That leaves play. Now, I am not ready to travel to the last bridge yet. Even though I've made a lot of progress, I have not yet traveled to the last bridge. But I need a Test of Will in hand before I really can do that comfortably. So we'll, at the beginning of the encounter phase, Fell Rider will take away a point of life from Frodo, refresh. At the end of the round, Frodo loses another life. There's Test of Will. Steward of Gondor, Bearvor draws 2 cards. So since I have Test of Will, I can actually, we're ready to travel to the last bridge. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and play Risk Some Light, Secrecy 3, so it costs us nothing to look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck and place them in any order. So I definitely don't want Fell Rider to come into play, so let's move that to the bottom of the encounter deck. And then well, maybe we won't travel to the last bridge quite yet. Because I can't, this is going to surge, so I won't know what I'm going to be revealing during this travel effect. It'll make sense in a minute, but let me think about this. How many Risk Some Lights have I played? 2. So there's 1 more in my deck. Let's go back to looking at the top 2 at this point. I might as well let this surge into Pain Assailed Him. I guess we'll just do that. Okay, so we're going to quest and make plenty of progress. We'll reveal Pale Blade, which is going to surge. When revealed, attach to a Nazgul enemy in play. If able, limit 1 per enemy. Attached enemy gets +1 attack. And cannot take non-combat damage, so it'll be attacking for 5 should it ever engage us and attack us. All right, so here is Pain Assailed Him. When revealed, reduce the ring bearer's life by 1. Then reduce the ring bearer's willpower, attack, and defense to 0 until the end of the round. We'll save Frodo from that. Let's just play Test of Will, cancel that, and we made 13 progress. So we are at 25, but we can't advance because Last Bridge is not in the victory display. During the travel phase, remember Last Bridge is immune to player card effects, so Asphaloth can't put 2 progress on the Last Bridge, and then Edmore is forced, after any amount of progress is placed on Edmore, is reduce the ring bearer's life by 1. So I don't want to put progress out with Asphaloth. Okay, so if I want to travel to the last bridge, I have to reveal the top card of the burden deck, which is something that I could do because I could play Test of Will, but I'm still not comfortable. We're going to wait just one more round and hope for the right cards to be in our hand. At the beginning of the encounter phase, we will lower Frodo's life down to 8. Refresh, and at the end of the round, Frodo's down to 7. So 4 rounds in, we've lost 8 life on Frodo. Bearvor draws 2 cards. Here's a Hobbit Pipe. Let's attach that to Frodo. Let's play Dwarven Tomb to grab out of our discard pile a Test of Will. We're not really worried about willpower at this point, so I don't really need to play any allies at this point because we have the necessary progress. What else do I have in my discard pile? So I really kind of want to get to risk some light. We have our Test of Will, so we're good. Let's just quest with Glorfindel and our Outland's characters here. We'll leave Frodo ready and Fatty ready. And we reveal Pathless Country, and we made 8 progress. During the travel phase, we'll travel to Pathless Country, and it said, because we're still not ready to travel to the last bridge. Are we ready? I'm just worried about a Fell Rider coming out, but I've buried 2 already. I think maybe it's just time to go ahead and move on to the last bridge. Now let's travel to Pathless Country. And during the action window after the travel effect, we will exhaust Asphaloth to put 2 progress on Pathless Country. And at the beginning of the encounter phase, we're actually going to choose to optionally engage Fell Rider. So he engages with us. And during the action, when that saves Frodo a life point. During the action window after engagement checks, let's play Risk some or a light in the dark. Action: choose an enemy, engage with a player, return that enemy to the staging area. So he just goes right back, and it just saved Frodo for an extra round. Refresh. At the end of the round, Frodo loses a life point, so he's down to 6 instead of 5 because of a light in the dark. Next round. Steward of Gondor, Bearvor draws us 2 cards. There's Risk some light, so we're ready to move on, I think, now. Let's play Daeron's Runes to draw 2 cards and discard Steward of Gondor. We'll put out Amphalos Herdsman. Just to get us in secrecy, let's play Elrond's Council, lowering our threat by 3, and exhausting Hobbit Pipe to draw a card. We just did that during planning. That gets us in secrecy so we can play Risk some light. Look at the top 3 cards. And we're just going to just make sure we get exactly what we want. Okay, we don't want to shuffle the deck particularly. This is going to surge. So I like the idea of canceling that with Test of Will. Grabbing Test of Will out of the discard pile with Dwarven Tomb, letting Ring Wraith come out, and then the next round, this is fine. Yes, this is good. Okay, so we know it's coming, and we are going to make the necessary progress. We already have, but we're gonna travel to the last bridge this round. Let's go ahead and quest with our Outlands characters and with Glorfindel. And we reveal Piercing Cry. And I don't mind this when revealed. Search the encounter deck and discard pile for a Nazgul enemy. Either add it to the staging area or put it into play, engage with the first player. I could put one of the Ring Wraith enemies in play, not the Fell Rider. But I don't want to shuffle the encounter deck because I've buried 2 Fell Riders. I don't want to have to deal with them. So I'm going to play Test of Will to cancel that. During the quest resolution, we made 13 progress. So that means an additional 12. We're at 45 progress. So Pathless Country leaves play. During the action window here, let's spend a resource to grab, using Dwarven Tomb, out of our discard pile. Let's grab Test of Will. What did I just do? I think we're good. All right, we will, during the travel phase, we're finally going to travel to the last bridge. Travel, the first player must reveal the top card of the burden deck and resolve that card as if it were just revealed from the encounter deck. So let's do that. And so remember the burdens, these are going to surge, and some of them are worth canceling, some are not. Let's see which one this is. Panicked. It's going to surge. When revealed, the first player raises his threat by 3 and passes the first player token to the next player. Well, in solo, there is no next player, so it's just raise my threat by 3, which I don't mind. Let's just do that. Rather than playing a test of will right now, we'll just raise our threat, and we can't pass the first player token. Okay, that will surge, though, into, this is why we really want to play Risk Some Light before advancing. We just can control what's going to come out, and it's going to be Ring Wraith, which is 35 engagements, so we're not worried about it at all. And this is still not in the victory display, so we have not yet completed the stage. All right, at the beginning of the encounter phase, we're going to optionally engage Fell Rider rather than have Frodo be damaged. And then during the combat phase, Fell Rider will get a shadow card, and we're going to play Elrond's Counsel to lower our threat so that we are in secrecy. So now, out of sight only costs us 2. Action, enemies engaged with you cannot attack you this phase. So it's like Feint. He's just been, he cannot cancel, he cannot attack us. Now we can attack him, so let's just see what we can do. 3, 4, 5, just 2 points of damage on Fell Rider. Shadow cards are discarded. Refresh at the end of the round. Frodo loses a life point. Next round, and we will definitely clear the last bridge and move on to the final stage. Steward of Gondor, Beorvor draws 2 cards. And then we will go ahead and just get out a bunch of willpower here, I think. Let's play Good Harvest to name Spirit. Name a sphere. We'll say Spirit. And we're going to go 1, 2. We're going to use Frodo's resources here. Getting out our Sylvan Refugees and Arwen Undomio and West Road Traveler. And West Road Traveler. And that's actually, you know what? I want to save resources a little bit on Spirit. So let's actually use Beorvor. Remember we played a Good Harvest, so we can use her resources to pay for Spirit. And that just saves us. I want to leave 1 resource on Frodo, and then I'll leave 4 on Fatty. Here's another West Road Traveler. Okay, so we're going to make plenty of progress here. And I mean, might as well just quest with everybody. I'm not sure why I've been holding back. And we reveal Pathless Country. If it had been something we didn't like, we could have used Frodo's response. But at this point, there's just 1 Fell Rider we haven't buried. So, of course, Pathless Country gets +4 quest points while in the staging area. And we made 24 progress. That's going to be 20, so we made 65. I've never done that before. On Pursued by the Enemy. This goes to the victory display. And it says the players cannot advance unless the last bridge is in the victory display. So it is. We can advance. Race to Rivendell. Black horses leaped down the hill in pursuit, and from the riders came a terrible cry, such as Frodo had heard, filling the woods with horror in the East Farthing far away. It was answered, and to the dismay of Frodo and his friends, out from the trees and rocks away on the left, 4 other riders came flying. 2 rode towards Frodo, 2 galloped madly towards the ford to cut off his escape, the Fellowship of the Ring. When revealed, add Ford of Bruinen and the Witch King to the staging area. So here's Witch King. Here is Ford of Bruinen. This is the same Witch King that we saw in the last quest, Knife in the Dark. So let's look at those. Fort of Bruinen is a unique location, 2 threat, immune to player card effects, and the travel effect says the first player must reveal the top card of the encounter deck to travel here. All right, when at least one Nazgul enemy is in play, Race to Rivendell gets plus 15 quest points, so we are at 30. And then force at the end of the round, just like last stage, reduce the Ring Bearer's life by 1. Okay, during the travel phase, let's just kind of have some fun, I think. Let's travel to Fort of Bruinen. We have a Test of Will. All right, so travel. The first player must reveal the top card of the encounter deck to travel here. And it is Ring Wraith. If it had been Fell Rider, I wouldn't have minded because I would have just engaged it. All right, so at the beginning of the encounter phase, Fell Rider is not in staging, so it doesn't matter. He doesn't reduce Frodo's life. But we will optionally engage one of these Ring Wraiths. And they're going to get shadow cards. And we are in Secrecy. And so we can play Out of Sight, Secrecy 3. So it just costs us 2 to lower this. It only costs us 2 to play action. Enemies engaged with you cannot attack you this phase. Now we don't want to engage Witch King because it's immune to player card effects. We couldn't use that against it. All right, so they do not attack us. And shadows are discarded. Let's just look at what they are. Ring Wraiths, both of them. Okay, and so refresh. And at the end of the round, we lose a life point because of Race to Rivendell. Next round. Bearvor draws us 2 cards. Okay, we have another Out of Sight. That's good. And then we are going to put out, actually rather than Westroad Traveler, let's hang on to our resources just in case we need to play. Of course, we're going to play Out of Sight. Maybe. I don't know actually if we're going to use, well, we'll see. Let me just keep that available. I'm not sure why I would. Let's go ahead and play Galadrim's Greeting, lowering our threat by 6. That just keeps the Witch King from being able to engage us, even if the one ring is exhausted. We can exhaust Hobbit Pipe to draw a card. And let's put out Amphalos Herdsman. There we go. And we're going to quest for everything we got. Not enough to win the quest this round, even if we wanted to. That's okay. And last round, I should have used Asphaloth to put 2 progress on Pathless Country. And now we will reveal Road Like a Gale. When revealed, return each Nazgul enemy to the staging area. Let's cancel that with Test of Will. And then we reveal Pain Assailed Him. When revealed, reduce the Ring Bearer's life by 1. Then reduce the Ring Bearer's willpower, attack, and defense to 0 until the end of the round. I've got a Test of Will, but then I wouldn't be able to play Out of Sight. So we're just going to let that happen. So Frodo loses a life point, and his willpower, attack, and defense go down to 0. So let's go down to just 32 willpower here. And then we made 20 progress, so 6 on the active location and 14 on Race to Rivendell. So this leaves play. Response after Fort of Bruinen leaves play as an explored location. All engaged enemies are discarded. This goes to victor's play, and it just washed away these Ring Wraiths. So I don't know why I was thinking I needed to hang on to Out of Sight. Okay, during the travel phase, we'll travel to Pathless Country and exhaust Asphaloth to put at this point, it's just 3 progress, and so we'll put the 2 more on there and at least play. I'll save my resources. We're about to just win it here. Refresh at the end of the round. Frodo goes down to 2. Next round. Steward of Gondor, Bearvo draws us 2 cards. Here's our 3rd Amphalos Herdsman. And we will put out Westroad Traveler. And here we go. Let's quest. And Fatty will get his moment here. He gets to shine. We're going to actually use his action. This is where it maybe can be helpful. Action, exhaust Fatty Bulger to choose an enemy in the staging area and raise your threat by that enemy's threat. Until the end of the phase, that enemy does not contribute its threat. So let's exhaust Fatty, and we're going to raise our threat by 3. Remember, it says raise your threat by the threat of the enemy, so that's going to be 3. And then Ring Wraith does not contribute its threat. So it's like Fatty got 2 extra willpower. That's how good his action is. All right, we reveal Stricken Dumb. When revealed, you must either shuffle the top card of the burden deck into the encounter deck and reveal an additional encounter card, or raise each player's threat by 3 and immediately end the quest phase. Let's cancel that with Test of Will. Let's play Elrond's Counsel to lower our threat by 3 and boost our willpower. We'll exhaust Hobbit Pipe to draw a card. And that's it. We made 32 progress. 32 plus 14 is going to be 46. And so we won the quest. If the players defeat the stage, they've won the game because we only have to make 30 progress. You actually don't have to get rid of the Witch King. You don't have to get rid of the Ring Wraith. We just have to get Frodo across the Ford of Bruinen, which we did. And he was down to 2 life points. But as you can see, we were always sort of in the driver's seat. You have Light in the Dark to help kind of alleviate some of the tension or the pressure off of Fell Riders. Things can get kind of tough, though, if a second Fell Rider somehow enters play. Then you really feel the pressure. It becomes a race at that point. But usually with Frodo's response and with Rissom Light, we normally don't have that happen. I can't remember the last time that happened to me, but it has happened before. But that's it. That's the quest. I don't think there was anything we didn't really see. You know, the enemies were just the different Nazgul. And we just kept burying the Fell Riders. So there was one that we never buried. Locations, there's nothing really difficult about them. Just the fact that Ed Moore's stays in staging can make the threat go up in staging, but we have so much willpower we're putting out. So treacheries are the tough part. You have to be careful and just think about what you've got in your hand. You have to move on to the last bridge until you want to be ready. So just don't freak out and go too soon. You want Frodo to make it, but usually if you can get to stage 2 with like 4 or 5 hit points on Frodo, he's only going to lose hit points at the end of the round, and so you're fine by then. That's it. That's the quest. We saw everything, I think. Hope you enjoyed that. Man, I really like the Black Riders Deluxe expansion. Definitely the best product so far in the game. Great quest, very thematic, very well done, Caleb and crew. Again, thank you for joining me, and I hope you will again next time. I hope you have a great day.